A businessman sees a fisherman laying down on the shore, looking at the sky. Well said. It's a good joke but also a life hack. Caught. The downfall of capitalism. I'm relating to this very strongly today. I was enjoying it until you walked over here. Well, at least the tired old shit joke is now bullet pointed to save time. Thanks. Enough is as good as a feast. Mary Poppins. I could enjoy life more as a fishing tycoon with supermodels hanging off my arm. A man was playing golf. Now that's a good funny one. And they say romance is dead. A classic joke. 214. Haven't seen this one in a while. Always enjoyed it. If they are playing it alone, why didn't they just group up? It a holy romance. Still better love story than Twilight. Yep, I am reviving that meme. Now that was worth the read and indeed funny. Take my upvote XD. Well, they do say that brown and red are a good match. I love that. And he added, cracking up, the funniest thing is that your clients are cunts while mine are assholes. Because he was too stupid to learn how to fish. This gets an A, mainly for composition punctuation. Damn, I love well-written pieces. This sounds like the story of my friend Izzy and Ye. That's a good one. I'll have to remember that next time I'm on the course. AMA with Steve Reinhotz, CEO of AIX and Robotic Assistant Devices, discussing the robotic revolution in security industry and more. When do you think AIX share price will be worth 1 full cent again? What advice would you give to individuals looking to follow a similar path in blending personal passion with a career in robotics and AI? Hey Steve, big fan of yours since the early Wally and Scott days. What was your reasoning for putting those product lines out to pasture, so to speak? I've often wondered if there's almost a sunk cost fallacy with companies such as Cobalt and Nightscope and their refusal to terminate unpopular or underperforming product lines. Hi Steve, can you expand on your deployments in Europe? Like what region and what vertical? Is there an issue with Radog and Unitree, and is that why you went to China? If so, what was the issue? Thanks. Did you hear about how people in Athens don't even wake up until noon? This is great. Thumbs up. I don't get this joke. It's all Greek to me. Veil. This is an e-slapper. Is this an American joke that I'm too English to understand? Ajax is stronger than Greece as well. Not only in Athens. Wife says it's hard to clean at nighty. Who is Dawn? I like my women how I like my coffee. Surprisingly expensive and getting my name wrong. Cheap and picked up from the gas station. All on my crotch while I'm driving. Ground up and in the freezer. Covered in bees. K-cups. My women need to be like my coffee, dark, rich, and hot. Hot and thrown at a mugger so I can escape. I like my women how I like my coffee. Black, strong and much valued in the workplace. Grand cups, without a dick in it. Hot and full of booze, with no top on. Without pubic hair. On a mountainside and in the shade. White and weak. Hot and strong. And with a spoon in them. I like my coffee with a slice of cream pie. I heard you don't like coffee. Without a penis. In a burlap sack on the back of a donkey. Ground up and stored in the freezer. In the kitchen. With milk. It's very helpful that bread mold is blue and not white-brown. There absolutely is white mold that can grow on bread. In fact, when I was young I chomped into a muffin and asked my mom how laundry lint made its way into the muffin. There was a pocket of white fuzz, which was of course mold. Who wants to tell him? The part of the bread mold that you see, that blue stuff, is the fruiting bodies. By the time you see it, the white mold fibers have threaded their way through the is why it is not recommended to cut off the blue part and eat the rest of the bread. That being said, I grew up doing that and I'm still here after 60 years. See you soon at R Today I learned. Boy, have I got news for you. Most of the time when I've accidentally tasted mold it has not even been visible. Then I can't eat bread for months. Nowadays I scan my bread slices with my nose before I eat them. Every mold I have had on bread was white. My daughter woke me up. A little trimming and I think this would be right at home at our 2-sentence horror. Took me a second read to understand, and now I can't stop laughing. Reminds me of the Addams Family. He is my father's eyes. Gomez. Take those out of his mouth. It's an old joke, but it's valid. For those who did not get it, the 4 fingers she held up are not hers. More of horror element kinda joke. Funnier version. Person 1, he has his mother's eyes. Person 2, maybe he should give them back. Our 2-sentence horror repost guy. Somebody explain this to me. Embarrassed smiley face. Crying face. I read somewhere that Stephen King was being interviewed, and said at some point I have the heart of a little boy. I keep it in a jar on my desk. Seems like things got out of hand. Digitalization changes kids. That's dark. Where she got the hours. On a farm out in the country lived a man and a woman and their 3 sons. Early one morning, the woman awoke, and while looking out of the window onto the pasture, she saw that the family's only cow was lying dead in the field. If the mermaid brought back the cow, it would have some serious trauma. Chap comes back to work after getting married. His bestman and workmate knew he was still a virgin and nervous about the first night. So how did the first night go? How many times did you do it? Grinning, 8 times. Workmate, you stud, told you there was nothing to worry about. How did you manage that? Him, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. Then I started to cry. So did she. It was beautiful, man. No wonder the youngest son did not hear the gunshot and the cries from his older brothers. He completely passed out after the session with the cow. People who were engaged at one point but never got married. What happened? He cheated before we got married and I found out. I thank the stars every fucking day I didn't marry him. Cheated on me, a lot. The night he proposed he left my house and went straight to his ex's for a catch-up dinner but slipped and fell and accidentally fucked her. I finally left him after he hit the dog. Years of hitting me both physically and emotionally were ignored. But the moment I heard my dog yip, I smartened up. Turns out she liked vagina as much as I did. We had like 6 miscarriages. At the end of the relationship he said something to me like, it's just so hard. I look at your face and I feel like I see nothing but 6 dead babies. Can't really come back from that one. I mean, some people can. We couldn't. The Holy Spirit came to him in a dream and told him that he couldn't marry me because I wasn't a virgin. Till Marquis de Lafayette was a Frenchman who volunteered to join the American Revolution and the 19 years old met 45 years old George Washington. He then went back to France and the 42 years old fought against the rise of 30 years old Napoleon Bonaparte. He is typically dubbed the hero of 2 worlds. Still, how young Lafayette was when he fought in the American Revolution. I had always assumed he was older. He also was a very talented rapper. I really don't understand how we don't have any Oscar bait biopics or miniseries on Lafayette. Seems like an amazing story the US market would eat right up. Yo, turns out we have a secret immigrant, you know and love, who's unafraid to step as constantly confuse and confound in the British one. Give it up for America's favorite fighting Frenchman. Hero of 2 Worlds by Mike Duncan was a kick-ass book. Till one of the reasons that Aaron Burr and Alexander Hamilton had their famous duel was because Burr wanted to turn the Manhattan Company into a bank. After the death of Hamilton he did just that, helping to start the Manhattan Bank, which later on became JP Morgan Chase. Here's a list of 30 years of disagreements. In fact, JPMC have the pistols used in the duel on display in their corporate office. Wait. I'm supporting Aaron Burr by banking with Chase. Burr was also charged with treason later in his life for allegedly trying to create an independent country in the American Southwest. He was acquitted and then ran away to Europe when more charges were brought forth. I'm sure you can go back 50, 100 years and pick a bank at random and the story ends with which later on became JP Morgan Chase. Hamilton also didn't fire into the air. It's more likely he tried to shoot Burr and was just a bad shot. Till Plato wrote that a nation should be led by its most curious, benevolent, just, kind, and altruistic individuals. He called them philosopher kings. They would spend their entire life preparing for this role. Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius was said to best exemplify this idea. Philosopher kings and benevolent dictators. Our problem is getting another one after they die. Can't think of any society that got anything like that twice in a row. Veil. Time to tell my wife I thought about the Roman Empire again. Too bad he didn't study how to pick a good successor. In the last chapter, X, of Plato's Republic there is the great myth of which is a story of reincarnation, rewards and punishments after death, a near-death experience, and it's a great story of the immortality of the soul. It always gets forgotten when people talk about Plato's Republic, but it's the most interesting part of the book. Till that great apes go through a midlife crisis. Their measured sense of well-being bottoms out in their late 20s to the early 30s before rebounding later on. The finding that midlife crises may not be uniquely human suggests they might have a biological, rather than a sociological, cause. That explains the great ape driving a Corvette with a blonde riding passenger I saw the other day. The apes covered all age ranges, and their happiness was rated through a survey answered by their keepers. The survey covered 4 criteria: the animal's overall mood, how much pleasure they got out of socializing, their success in achieving goals such as obtaining food and objects they desire, and how happy the keeper would be if he or she were that animal. For it seems distinctly possible that this study gives more insight about the keepers than the apes. My wife tells me we can't afford for me to have a midlife crisis. Till that there's a small village in Japan called Nagoro, where a woman named Ayano Tsukimi has created over 350 life-size dolls to replace the declining population. The dolls outnumber the living residents by 10 to 1. Plot twist: once all humans pass away in the village, the dolls come to life and seamlessly keep the whole place running for tourists. Oh yeah, I remember this from watching James May's show about his travels in Japan. I did a trek through Japan and stayed in a small village one night. 16 of the 18 surviving inhabitants were over 70 years old. Japan is facing a crisis. I've seen this anime. Doesn't end well for the village. Abroad in Japan visits Nagoro. Till twins can have different dads by the occurrence called heteropaternal superfecundation. I'm sure Jerry Springer wishes he knew this. Can confirm. It happened to Sami on Days of Our Lives. Maury Povich Lesson 1. This happened in Greek mythology with Heracles and his twin brother Iphicles. This happened to my childhood dog. Our golden retriever gave birth to some golden Pyrenees puppies, our other dogs. Then some golden pit puppies and neighborhood dogs that got with her at some point sprinkled in between. Smiley face. We were all very confused at first. Heteropaternal superfecundation is the scientific term for yo mom's a hoe. She then recalled having sex with a different man the same day. Oh yeah, that's the day I did that other guy too. Damn, sounds like a promising start for a Webtoon story on Reddit. Webtoon: if I pay child support only for the twin that is genetically mine? Also an interesting question, would you have to pay for both? Tarzan's first wet dream wouldn't have involved a human since he'd never encountered one. Make of that what you will. Is that all this sub is anymore? People reposting others' ideas? Gorillas actually have pretty small penises proportional to their size, so Tarzan was probably the most hung in their tribe. He was clapping cheeks. He probably had seen his reflection on still water. Thanks for making me think about Tarzan's wang before work. Wet dream doesn't have to be sexual based on my experience. I have weird dreams like when I'm about to fall and I'm hanging for dear life but my crotch is also brushing on something, then boom. Blind people have wet dreams. Make of that what you will. The rainforest gets 12 feet of rain a year, which equates to 200 out of 365 days, so technically up until that point it was rare for him to have a dry dream either way. First wet dream did not involve a human. The CIA was recruiting new agents. 463. She was sent home because she failed to follow directions. Nowhere was it said to kill her husband, just to shoot him. Best laugh of the week, thank you. There are more than a handful people that have had crushes on you without you knowing. I'm confident there's less than a handful people. Well, tell them to pipe the fuck up. I call bullshit. Have you seen this face? Not even my parents love me, let alone a secret admirer. I know this to be true, I just wish that people were open about it. I have heard from ladies like, 10 years after they got married or whatever, where it is like, I always had a crush on you when we were younger. And I am like, why didn't you tell me? You are cute and I was fucking lonely. I mean, I have heard people go you after looking at me, so I doubt it. Unlikely story, come back with better fairy tale next time. I can say that this is not even close to true for me. It seems likely to me that a relatively small number of people have had a huge number of people with a crush on them, while the vast majority of people have had nobody or very few people who crushed on them. Sadly, they generally get over it. We are partners in health, clinicians and researchers with dozens of years of experience fighting tuberculosis TB globally. Joining us is TB advocate, best-selling author, and P trustee John Green. We're here to answer any questions you may have about TB, the world's deadliest infectious disease. Why is TB killing so many people and what steps need to be taken to help stop this? When looking at 20th century literature around TB, there seems to be a romanization of it. What caused such a brutal disease to become this thing that people romanticized in society? A decade ago I watched a documentary series about the dangers of multi-drug resistant tuberculosis. My takeaway was that eventually we would be faced with a strain of TB that we didn't have a drug we could use for treatment. Is that still true? Is there a strain that already has this characteristic, and how prevalent is it? What do you call a fish with no eyes? Now THS is a dad joke. Officially impaired. Thanks pal.p.s. Don't tell any more jokes. I was thinking walleye. But you did say no eyes. I once saw a fish with 3. Do you spell it fish? What do you call a deer with no eyes? No idea. This is my favorite. Gets me every time. A blind stag? No idea. A blind stag with no legs? Still no idea. Blind fishy fish. What do you call a one-eyed fish? Fish. Sushi. What do you call a bear with no yuan? It can't hear you. What do you 6 fish with no FSH? More like a dead fish. Skull. What does a fish say before it runs into a wall? Damn, Steve, at least that's what I'd call it. No idea? That's a fish with no eye. Most average English teacher PowerPoint joke ever. 6 footballs out of 94.3 table tennis rule books. What is no longer worth it because of how expensive it has become? Most fast food, cable television, the add-on fees usually drive the cost higher than an actual hotel stay in the same area. Brisket used to be really cheap because it has lots of sinew and connective tissue. Takes a long time cooking to break down and make tender. Now barbecue has taken off, brisket has shot up in price. Fixing things, which I used to love, is often much cheaper to just buy another one. Buying a new car. Even the crap entry-level models with no options will run you near $30,000. Who the hell is buying a $70,000 Ford F-150? What's the funniest thing a man has said to you while having intercourse? I love you, our pussy. I meant I love your pussy. Still with him too. He slipped out and said oopsie doopsie but still in the husky sexy voice. I lost my shit. He asked what we should eat later. Mid-sex. I said I love your cock while sucking him, which he appeared to love since he came after that. But instead of saying I'm gonna cum he said I'm gonna cock. We laughed so hard. He said someone's coming. I panicked and said WHO thinking it was his mom cause he lived with his family at the time. He then says me and comes. We still laugh about it years later. My boyfriend once said oy vey seeing my tits. I have never let him live it down. You're so lucky you have a boyfriend who keeps going after he's already come. He proceeded to pump once more then roll off of me. The sex lasted about 30 seconds altogether. What's the most beautiful song you've ever heard? When I was around 8, I heard Pavarotti's Nessun Dorma and immediately stopped. I kept rewinding it because I didn't understand what I was hearing or what it meant. Just goosebumps, that's all. Hans Zimmer No Time for Caution Interstellar. Adagio for Strings by Samuel Me Fucking Cry. The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face by Roberta Flack. God Only Knows Beach Boys. Echoes Pink Floyd. Any Song by John Denver. And yes, I'll Die on This Hill as a guy who grew up on Metallica, Guns N' Roses and AC/DC. Any Song. Clair de Lune by Debussy. It's a piano song. Personally I don't even like piano music but this song just always gets me. Starry Night, Don McLean. What a Wonderful World. Louis Armstrong. Band of Horses. The Funeral. Outro M83. Goodbye Yellow Brick Road is a beauty. What's the one thing you'll never tell your so? That her mother is a bad person in disguise of a caring and beloved figure. I don't like the potato salad she makes, and she always tries to make it as a treat for me. It's my mom's recipe, but doesn't taste like mom's. The spot you make me sleep in on the bed is uncomfortable but I lay there because you're comfortable where you are. My fucking Reddit username. I lost my real wedding band within 3 months of getting married. I've been using a $20 lookalike from Amazon for the past year or so and she still doesn't know. He thinks I don't fart around him because I'm too shy or polite. It's really because they are so bad they could kill a horse. That I haven't had a pain-free day in almost 2 years and I'm tired and I don't want this life anymore. He has no idea how bad it is and I'll keep going because he needs me to and my kids need me to and my parents need me to but I'm so fucking tired. Fuck lupus.